You mentioned on Friday something that I was like, oh, I don't know what that means. Schizophrenic language.
Those are the linguistic patterns we were talking about in the
Like,
covert language. So
okay.
those are patterns that we use in hypnosis or in NLP too. Those are modeled from people who, well, mostly schizophrenia, but it doesn't mean only from schizophrenics. All the, dark triads, psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, and other disorders. Those are used as manipulation. And why they're so effective? Because normal human brain gets hypnotized. We cannot understand them. Although it seems like it's just a simple conversation, but why you feel like you've been, like this little mouse hypnotized by a snake? There's nothing you can do. So those phrases were modeled from sick people, and now we can intentionally use them where it matters. To induce trance, we don't need it in a regular hypnosis session, but if we do conversational hypnosis, not therapists, salespeople use it, politicians use it, scam artists use it. So those phrases are modeled from sick people. They're literally called schizophrenic language patterns. Well,
That's what
actually, I don't know what they're called in English.
you had mentioned, like, see how you're warming. It was almost like you'd be telling them to see and feel at the same time. That's how I think you
Yes, you
explained
can
it. Okay.
confuse representation system on purpose, make them incorrect. Watch how my voice sounds right now. And while you're writing, listen to the color of the Sue's shirt, how it synchronizes with your shirt. You see, if you do it on and on and on subtly, now my brain freezes because it doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
So that would be one example. Another one, if it contradicts, I want you to ask me questions if you don't understand something. Don't interrupt me. I'm talking right now. See what I did? Well, it's exaggerated. But even in regular conversation, how often people do this? Trust me completely. It's not my fault that you can't trust me because you don't understand what I'm saying. Sound right now like a narcissist, right? You see, so this is language, but also life situations would too cause splitting of the psyche when you have to choose. For example, one brother killed another brother. Those are maybe my children. I love them equally, but now I have to choose who I love more, and I cannot compromise here. I cannot make a choice because those are equally my children. That's how people go crazy. Something happened between your husband, for example, and your child. And now you're in a situation where you have to make a choice between them. But it's impossible if you love both. People go crazy if already mind is under stress, if the system is not stable, if the person doesn't feel secure enough.
I just
Because
came across, yeah, that's something like that when you're saying, because when I was watching it, I'm like, how the hell could a mother do something like that? And then you're saying this now, and I'm like, I'm not excusing it, but I can understand how she could go through with the action she did because her brain was not able to choose or pick a side. She was probably overwhelmed with emotion, anger, and it was easier to take it out on her child than on the man that she's with.
in our work, it will be singular occurrence. But in people's life, they living with somebody like this who's unwell. They constantly sending contradicting messages. Abuser, I love you very much, and then they beating on them on the same day. Then I love you very much. I can't live without you. You're my entire life, and then another beating episode. It drives people crazy, and we wonder why would they want to live? They don't even know where they are because it's constant. It also didn't start overnight. It's always gradual process. Schizophrenic pattern can happen in one conversation, few different things. I'm going to confuse you with mixing up representation system, and you might sign it off, well, she's just nuts, or her English is so poor she doesn't understand what she's saying. And then I'll tell you how much I love my family, they're all nuts, I hate them, and on and on and on, so I can mix in all sorts of contradictions. Now, I know you're busy, don't pay attention to me. Why you're not listening to me? On and on and on. The more you pile up, the farther person goes into trance.
They taught us to do that at the bank. When you're talking to them about an interest rate, and then you're bringing them somewhere else, and then you're bringing them, you're confusing them, and they're totally. I didn't realize this until like I started doing the hypnosis, and I was like, I know why I got out of this, because I could feel it in myself. You don't realize it until when you're in the middle of it. But that was like 10 years ago, so I'm sure it's way worse now. But they did it very covertly. And they
didn't explain what's happening.
no.
So the same
just wanted you to get
effect
the sales.
were happening on you. It too was hurting you, not just clientele, not just customers.
Yep.
It too produces the same effect. That's why in hypnosis, we're studying those things gradually. We're chewing over and over and over and then practicing like literally by one sentence.
Oh yeah,
Phrase at a
because
time. So it's gradual exposure, and you constantly have to be aware. Otherwise, it too will play a trick on you.
Well, I actually, I never said this to anybody at the time, but I went through a dark night of the soul, probably maybe 2 months after I started hypnosis, because it started to bring up things, and then I started to feel guilt, and I started to feel shame, and I started to feel all these different emotions. It's stuff that you suppress that you don't even realize. You think you're helping people. That's not what it is.
You see, it took a long time for it to come out. But good thing it did now, although didn't feel probably good. But imagine, okay, 8-10 years. Imagine you would be carrying this poison in you for a very long time. It would come out during some crisis.
Well, after that, what happened was, so I had like a little bit of a dark night of the soul, remembering all of these things and sort of making amends with it. And then my life started to change around, and then I started seeing patterns within myself, in my family, that I had started developing, and I had to unwind all of those. So it's
a
very
process of enlightenment.
woo. And it's true. You're always growing.
This
you're
is the
always learning.
real enlightenment, not when you see unicorns and dragons and glitter after taking some drugs.
True.
This is real enlightenment, when you realize what is happening.
But then you can help other people because you've been through it, and you yourself know how to maneuver those waters.
Why those phrases are so dangerous? Because even if you're aware, even if you know the theory, if it comes into your ears, if you get exposed to it, it damages you. It's like infection. When you meet person with influenza and you see them coughing and having snot, just because you're aware of it, just because you recognize it, doesn't mean that you're protected from it. You still can be contaminated and get sick. The same here. The fact that you're aware and understand all of it and know all of it does not protect you from damaging effects. It still hurts you. When you recognize it, you have two choices, really. Or remove yourself physically from environment, or have them shut up. You on the phone, there's so many interesting conversations you're going to have. Be realistic. Yeah, 7 out of 10 callers are not fit for hypnosis, but those are who are most interested. So you'll have all sorts of conversations. And if you do it few times every day, imagine what's going to happen to you. You need to be able to recognize it and stop it as soon as you recognize it. All right, it's fascinating. Thank you so much for your interest, for your call. I have an appointment coming up literally in 2 minutes. Polite doesn't work though with those people. I'm just giving you phrases that you can use. Thank you for sharing. I have to go now. Usually none of it works, but at least you don't feel awkward. At least you tried, and then you just hang up. Or you have to block right away because they will be calling you back.
I think that's why it's so important for pre-evaluation, like over the phone, if you can, better not to get them in the office, and you'll feel it, I think.
Did I answer your question, Cheryl? Yeah? I'm glad that you saw what I said. Even though you weren't paying much attention.
Good that you saw what I said.
See
Ah.
how subtle it can be. I wouldn't pay attention if I had random conversations. So what? In general, grammatically incorrect sentences will do. If you have an intake pre-talk before the actual formal hypnosis session, you can slip some positive suggestions. You make intentional mistake and gives you a little bit of this empty spot. Brain freezes, they become very open and receptive, and you sleep. Perhaps from now on you can do this instead and see how easy it will be for you. Perhaps from now on you're not going to focus that much on your cravings. Instead, you'll think of your future driving your Mustang, Melanie. I see what you're saying to me, and I understand it can be difficult, but I also kind of getting a feel of who you are. You are much more than that. Who talks like this? You're much more than your smoking addiction. It's not the proper way to say, right? You pay attention to how people react when you'll be saying those phrases. Little freeze, slow down, eyes or get glassy, or they kind of start running back as though brain's trying to process, like arrow, arrow, arrow. It's so subtle and it's momentarily, but especially in the beginning, it's so helpful to observe how your phrases affect people. It's a learning process for you.